Thank you for joining us for our Agri-Pulse Washington Week in Review. I'm Spencer Chase, joined as always by Agri-Pulse Senior Editor Phil Brasher, discussing the week that was, agriculturally speaking, in Washington, D.C. I want to start this week with some progress on an issue we've been talking about for quite a while. This has been an issue that's been kind of the top of our radar and the top of a lot of radars here on Capitol Hill as it relates to things that are going on in terms of agriculture policy, and that is a debate in the Senate over GMO labeling. Now, if you'll remember, the House has passed something. In last July, they passed a bill, and shortly after that, the ball was in the Senate's court, where it has been for the last about 11 months. And really, this weekend, honestly, within the last 24 hours, as we film this on a Friday afternoon, we've seen some progress on Senate talks for the first time in quite a while.
Yeah. The House Agriculture Chairman Mike Conaway just reminded me that they passed their bill last summer, last July, as you pointed out, and it's we're now in June, 11 months out. Yes, we definitely had some progress on Thursday. Chairman of the Senate Agriculture Committee, Pat Roberts, the ranking member, Debbie Stabenow, got together. And then, probably most importantly, the staff was talked until 10:30 last night. They were back at it today. At one point, I talked to a couple of the staff members, and they were joking that they were talking about Michigan cotton. Of course, we all knew what the discussion was, but I would say, interestingly too, very upbeat tone from staff and the senators who, not just Senator Roberts and Senator Stabenow, but some of the other senators, Senator Heitkamp, Senator Carper, some of the others that have a stake in this issue because of their farmers, or in this case of Senator Carper, his home state to DuPont, one of the biggest biotech companies in the world. But the words from Senator Roberts was that they were making good progress, and Senator Stabenow described the negotiations as very positive.
So good progress and very positive are all well and good, but they're still staring at that July 1st deadline with the Vermont GMO labeling law. Did you get any indication from the folks you talked to about maybe a timeline or maybe even some of the outstanding issues that are still trying to be resolved in these discussions?
Yeah, and there are some very sticky issues that they really get down into details of what kind of authority USDA has in terms of the mandatory disclosure requirements that presumably would be part of the law if they do get an agreement on it. There's also this really a sticky issue that's been around for a while, and that's what you do with products like soup or broth that contain meat and may contain other biotech ingredients like, say, high fructose corn syrup. Because as we understand it, it's pretty much been agreed to that a steak or a hamburger or a dairy product, yogurt, would not be considered biotech just because the cow or the steer was fed a genetically engineered feed. However, the meat industry has also been pushing to get an exclusion for products like soup that contain meat, even if they contain some other biotech ingredients. Senator Stabenow has been pushing back against that, and of course she's trying to bring along maybe 15 to 20 Democrats. So that issue is still unsettled at the end of the week.
Yeah, and so the Senate sort of has already voted on this. The Senate Agriculture Committee did vote on an iteration of a GMO labeling bill. Did clear out of their committee, but then when they brought it to a cloture vote in March, you'll all remember that failed due to a lack of Democratic, and honestly, it failed kind of due to a lack of Republican support as well. There was bipartisan opposition there.
Right. Well, they have to have 60 votes. They're going to lose at least 2, 3, 4 Republicans, and so they need a fair number of Democrats. So that's the importance of Senator Stabenow. She's got to bring those Democrats along. And frankly, Senator Roberts needs a couple more Republicans as well.
And it's not just finishing up the language on this bill that needs to happen. They also need to clear it through the Senate, clear it through the House, which I don't anticipate would take a ton of time. They would probably sail it right through, and as well as get it to the president's desk pretty quickly. But when I said get it through the House, you kind of got a little skeptical.
Yeah, well, I mean, practically speaking, the the House is going to have to accept what the Senate can pass, what can get 60 votes in the House. Now, if you ask Chairman Conaway over in the House, he's saying he's going to see it when it's a deal, and he's not necessarily signing off on anything the Senate does. But look, he's got to keep pressure on the Senate for on behalf of Senator Roberts, so that Senator Roberts has that leverage. So it's not too surprising that Chairman Conaway would say that. There's no reason for him at this point to say, "Oh wait, whatever you want, Senator Stabenow." Senator Stabenow will sign off on it.
So let's shift gears a little bit here from one long-standing issue to another one. It's been well known within our readership that there's a little bit of trouble in cotton country right now. And earlier this year, and even later into last year, House Agriculture Committee Chair Mike Conaway had asked Secretary Vilsack to add cottonseed under some Farm Bill programs that would allow for a higher level of assistance to cotton producers. Secretary Vilsack turned him down on that suggestion, and has since they've been working on something that would be able to provide some financial assistance to cotton producers. That program came out this week. It amounts to $300 million in a one-time payment for some cost sharing on some cotton ginning, which is not exactly what they were looking for, what Chairman Conaway and the folks in his corner were looking for out of this proposal. But Phil, practically speaking, what are we looking at in terms of this particular cotton proposal and what it's going to mean to growers here in this growing season?
Well, it certainly is a significant payment to cotton growers this year. Their prices have fallen pretty sharply from what they were a few years ago. I think the big problem for the industry, for Chairman Conaway, is isn't what they would consider a long-term solution. It's just a one-time payment, one-off payment, theoretically. The next administration could very easily decide to do it again. But again, it's just a one-time payment on a temporary basis. What Chairman Conaway really was pushing for was to get, as we've talked about, is getting cottonseed made as an eligible commodity under the price loss coverage program, barring convincing the Clinton administration or the Trump administration to reverse the decision that Secretary Vilsack made. That's going to have to be a subject for the next Farm Bill.
Yeah, because we had a chance to talk to Val Dolcini, who's the administrator of Farm Service Agency, shortly after this decision was announced. And he was pretty adamant, and Secretary Vilsack has also been pretty adamant, that the cottonseed issue just isn't going to happen under the current administration. It's going to take a change in leadership to change the interpretation of the Farm Bill there. And so, Phil, like you mentioned, this is going to be something that I don't think it's a matter of if it's addressed in the Farm Bill. It's kind of a when and how at this point.
Right, and it's going to be an issue of money. Money is going to be a big challenge for the next Farm Bill in terms of the pot of money, because if you add cottonseed, then that's money that you theoretically have to take from other commodities, unless somehow the agriculture committees get more money to spend, which doesn't seem real likely in the current climate. So yeah, but it's definitely going to be an issue in the next Farm Bill. I think there's already some work and thought being given from the industry in terms of how that might play out, where the money might come from, possibly payments now going to peanut producers. A lot of cotton growers also grow peanuts, especially out in my home country in Texas. So that's a possibility, but very definitely it's going to be an issue in the next Farm Bill.
So a lot of the action that happened this week is really going to have ramifications into the future, be it in the next couple of weeks with GMO labeling, or really into the next couple of years as the Farm Bill debate on the cotton proposal works out. But I think that's going to do it for the news that we have for you, agriculturally speaking, this week. Appreciate you joining us as always here on AgriPulse.com. But for Phil Brasher, I'm Spencer Chase. Have a good one.